or not. So it isn't a matter of controlling one's chart, it isn't a matter of changing one's chart. It's a matter of fulfilling it. It's a matter of embracing it and becoming it.
Does this also, then my chart, is that my DNA coding?
That would be, the DNA is on, as far as we know, on a physical level, the equivalent of a chart.
Mm.
They're different frames of reference. I don't think they're equivalent, but they're similar. The thing about the chart is, I mean, a lot of geneticists would argue that even your spiritual beliefs are genetically somehow determined, coded. Whether that eventually proves to be true or not, the chart definitely has that coded into it, as well as physical traits and characteristics.
Wow,
as well.
this is exciting.
So whether they're absolutely equivalent or just two different ways of looking at you, at this point we tend to think they're two different ways of looking at ourselves. But that they do have parallels and they do have similarities. In other words, if one has a certain genetic coding that really creates a situation that dominates one's life, that situation should be symbolized in one's chart in some way too.
You've read so many charts, I'm sure, in your
10,000.
10,000. There must be some people that there's something that triggers. They get it early on in life.
Yeah,
they get on that.
we can't track that in a chart. A chart is the map of what we call your mechanicalness. There's an old spiritual metaphor for they used it. It comes from the days of horses and buggies. That our lives are like a coach with horses, and there's either a driver in the seat or there's no driver in the seat. And the whole point of spiritual work is to create that driver in the seat. The chart doesn't describe that. The chart describes the horses and the coach. In other words, the chart is not a complete description of our experience. There's freer parts of ourselves that we can learn to live in that the chart has no way of addressing. It hints at them, it suggests them, but it's not a complete map of reality. The Russian spiritual teacher Gurdjieff used to talk about what he called the man machine. Now that wasn't, now we'd call it the man computer or something. But the chart is the map of just our habits, our patterns, our gifts, our talents. But it's the way energy is moving through our lives, but it isn't a description of who's in the driver's seat here.
Because that's us when we realize it, when we awaken to take
Well,
that.
it's just telling us there's more parts of ourselves than the chart can describe. And I actually believe one of the points of astrological work is to help strengthen those parts of ourselves that the chart can't describe.
I can see the benefit already that, and everything's in time. I came today, it's time. Things just are flowing the way they should be, but I can see when you are aware of, now suddenly I've been given a roadmap, and now I can find the way a little easier. And of course, there's free will. I can choose that path or that path, but at least I have a map, and I love that, and I'm very excited.
So that moon and Neptune, at the time you're born, are sitting at a right angle to a third symbol here, which is the planet Uranus, the planet of freedom and independence and change and innovation. My favorite key word for Uranus is shock, in the sense of the way any innovation shocks the status quo. So now the chart says you're becoming the dreamlike imaginative and the shocking woman. The combination of Uranus and Neptune we call altered states of consciousness. So the woman in you is being symbolized as wanting to express herself through altered states in some way. Now, those can be very unconscious altered states, or they can be consciously cultivated altered states.
So what does it look like to you? So this is your opinion, but what do you think about when you think of altered states?
That's a good question. I think it certainly includes the spirit world.
Mhm.
In Sufism, are you familiar with that term at all? It's an Islamic term.
Very, very
The
vague.
Sufis are the mystical arm of Islam.
Okay.
Right? In Sufism, they make a distinction between the spirit world and the spiritual world. We don't make that distinction. We lump them all together. But Neptune is more the spirit world, in the sense the distinction the Sufis make is the spirit world is a subtler world than our bodily world, but it's still a world of form. You can experience it. You can have dreams. You can have visions. You can have different kinds of paranormal experiences where you interact with this subtler world.
Mm.
The true spiritual world, the Sufis say, is totally beyond form. You can only have faith that it's there. They have what they call an emanation scheme. God is at the center, and then the spiritual world is closest to God, and then the spirit world is next, and then the human world is beyond that. So the spirit world is the mediator between the human world and the spiritual world, just like the spiritual world is the mediator between the spirit world and God. This is, again, a metaphysical model. Okay. One of the things I think that our time is all about is using these models but not getting locked into them. Mm-hmm. Kind of saying, okay, let's talk about it this way for a while, and then leaving that model and going somewhere else, rather than thinking everything has to work within that particular framework. In other words, working with astrology for 44 years encourages conceptual flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
One learns to bounce around in different ways of looking at things, use them for a time and then abandon them, and not see that, not be looking for that unified theory that captures everything.
Resilience and an ability to change, to flow.
And to not be locked into our conceptual models.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And some people have built that wall that you have to first break that down.
Yeah.
So you don't have any conceptual models.
Yeah. So Neptune is more the symbol for the spirit world than for the spiritual world, although the spirit world is the gateway to the spiritual world. So it certainly includes that. Again, it includes all, even on the physical level, it includes all the radiation bands off the visible spectrum. It's everything, again, that we can't perceive with our senses.
Mm.
But we know even in the sensory world, there's many layers of energy we can't perceive. We also believe that the indigenous cultures that say there's, again, spirit worlds, know more what they're talking about. We've rejected that idea in our culture for over a couple of 100 years now. That's our loss as far as we're concerned.
Do you think we reject it, or have we been guided to abandon it, maybe? Deceive?
I think it's coming back. So, in terms of the history of Western consciousness, I think one can make an argument that we abandoned it.
Okay.
But now we're beginning to rediscover it.